the last session, because given that this session is a little bit more important, there's more technicalities involved. I need to know if the pace that has been set at the last session is alright with you, right? Are there any comments you'd like me to slow down, you'd like me to speed up, you'd like me to explain anything? Are there any concerns of that sort? Alright, I don't seem to see anybody having any concerns. Okay. Oh yeah, we have the lady there.
Could you elaborate more on what you expect in the report that we need to get by the end of the month?
Okay, that I will explain in this because it is very much part of the substantive part. No problem. Any other concerns you may have? Any at all? Alright, fair enough. So today what we are going to be discussing is something known as procedure. Okay? Procedure as such, it sort of gets a lot of people a little worried because of the immense amount of technicalities involved, a lot of rules, a lot of, it's a framework where you have to make all your discussion, it's not very flexible, the rules are a little rigid. So this requires a little bit more of attention, but as I said, it is fine. I mean, you can, if you know procedure well, you can really succeed at anything. It's like half your headache gone right there, right? So today I shall try to take it a little slow because as I said, it's technical. I encourage you to interrupt me, to ask me any questions at any point of time, right? Because it's important that you get any and all doubts clarified. Okay. So yeah, so a set of general instructions is that the procedure as is taught to you today is subject to slight modifications. Now, there are a lot of details involved in procedure, right? There are a lot of aspects of how the debate goes and how the cycle goes. In that sense, we may see the need to revise procedures from time to time. It will be small changes, micro, like small changes here and there, and it will all be communicated to you early on itself. If you are not able to sort of figure out procedure right now, it's alright. For one, we have a video recording of procedure which will be uploaded, and also your chairperson or your secretary in fact is obliged to conduct the procedural briefing before you begin session on the 16th and the 7th, on 16th, right? You are also free to approach them later on if you have procedural questions. So if you're worried about you're gonna do this session and that's it, no, that's not the case. It will be revised again. You can ask questions at any point of time. Alright? Yeah, procedure by its very nature is technical, so if you don't understand the concepts at the beginning, it's perfectly natural. This is the classic stages of what every mana goes through. Okay? When I was a delegate, my first MU, I remember very well, it was not this procedure, of course, it was the UN and USA procedure. I went all the way to Delhi with nothing else, with no understanding of procedure or anything. And when I just had this small 2-page brief of procedure and I didn't understand anything, it went all over my head, it just went above my head and I didn't really understand it. There was nobody to teach me as such what the procedure meant. I just had to read it myself, right? When I went there, suddenly it all made sense. Of course it makes sense, I'm looking at it right there, it's all falling in place. So it's okay if you don't get it at first, it's alright. These are technical matters, these are something, there are a lot of discussions that happen. Rules of procedure is always a problem everywhere, even in real life. If you ever look at the session of the Rajya Sabha, look at what they debate about. They don't debate about any substantive matters, they debate on what the rules of procedure says. So you have the speaker saying, please sit down, please sit down. Why are they fighting? They're fighting because they don't have clarity on the rules, on how to discuss it. Right? So rules of procedure is generally a problem, so don't find it, so even if you're a little overwhelmed, don't worry about it. Alright. So the need for a set procedure. Why do we have procedure in everywhere? What distinguishes this activity from, say, debates or any other form of interaction, group discussions, right? In the case of international relations, and especially the United Nations, there is the principle of sovereign equality. Now, what is sovereign equality? Sovereign equality states that all states are equal, right? When it comes to an international framework, all states are equal. Which is why in the General Assembly, each country has one vote, right? You can bring in, sometimes the size of the delegation varies. So then in General Assembly, some countries send 5 representatives, some just send 1, but each one still has one vote. It doesn't matter how many people you send, how big you are. All nations, in the eyes of international law, is just singular, one. Equal voice. States cannot, you can't have any discussion if any one side is dominating it. That's not a discussion. That's just diktat, right? It's just imposition of conditions. So the procedure is made in such a way to ensure that there is representation from everywhere. So then, let me give you an example. So one of the considerations of a chairperson when he is recognizing the speakers is if each region is represented or not. Alright, so I recognize someone from North America, next I'll recognize someone from Africa, next from Asia Pacific, like that. Why do we need this? Because we need a diverse view. We need everyone to see that, and the procedure is built to generate that very sort of structure, right? It's a systematic flow. One point leads to another. It is not haphazard. It is not. There is some order in the chaos, basically. That's basically why we need a set procedure. And again, encouraging a democratic basis of dialogue among states, so that everyone should get a voice. And the procedure enables you to do that. Because you have certain rules. So then, especially even in a debate, it's the same thing, right? So when you have a debate, you set some rules. Okay, no ad hominem, no getting personal, right? Stick to the facts. Don't make up stuff. It's a similar foundation even in everywhere. It's just that there are a lot more rules, and it's a little bit rigid. I must say that. There is flexibility as well, but as such, it's a more rigid form of a framework. So the roles, right? Who are the participants in an MUN? There are, in the case of any MUN, there are the member state representatives, which are most of you delegates, right? Then there are the conference officials, the chairperson, the secretary. They have their own roles to play in the whole setup. Actually, at Pune we simulate it on every level. So then even our organizing committee is technically comes under something known as secretariat, right? Like in the real world United Nations, the vast numbers of support staff help you with all your administrative problems and difficulties and all. That sort of support structure is simulated even here in our own internal structure, right? And even with the Secretary General, I derive the structure from a set framework of the United Nations. My power comes from that, and so does yours. So then you should understand that you are acting in a capacity of a delegate, right? You are important to the whole operation. What I want to talk to you about now is your role. So then the role of the member state representatives, I don't think it bears repetition because it's understood by you all what you are, what kind of role you're playing. I think we had covered that sort of in detail when it came to the last session, right? Of course, we'll be doing a little bit more again. I need to emphasize the power you have. And so then the next thing I want to talk about the conference officials. What is their role, right? So the conference officials, which means the chairperson and the secretary, forms what is known as the bureau. So in a typical layout of the classroom, it will be something like this, except that this small chain. Your chairperson and secretary will be sitting in the middle. The delegates will be seated exactly like this, and you have a podium just like this. So it's this plus 2 more people here, basically, right? Your chairperson, he technically is a member state just like you. He will be in Pune, he will be representing a country. He's not exactly competing with you, that's another thing. but he is also representing a country because he's elected from you, technically elected from you. At Pune month, the process of selecting the chairpersons is a little different. We have applications, we review the applications. After a long, arduous sort of screening process, we select them. These are people who are, who have done many conferences. They have subject matter expertise on the agenda that is being simulated, and they have experience. They have a lot of experience, right? So the chairperson, he primarily conducts the facilitates the discussions amongst you. He's a moderator, right? Your secretary is a representative of the United Nations. He or she does not have nationality as far as this simulation is concerned. The secretary's job is to ensure that the entire process of committee happens within procedure, that all the rules are being sort of followed. In a very crude sense, the secretary is like a monitor. Yeah? And so the basic job of the chairperson is to facilitate your discussions, even help you out in your deliberations, in your discussions, give you direction. So then if he feels that the committee is lacking in a direction, it's just very general, it's not having any specific focus, the chairperson is going to step in and sort of steer the committee to in a different direction, not a different direction, in a specific direction, so that even you also understand, okay, this is the issue we want to talk about now. How do we bring about changes here? How can he help us? He'll help you. He or she will be helping you and guiding you all throughout the process, right? And the secretary will help you also with that process. You can ask the secretary for any procedural queries you may have. The secretary will also maybe even help you with things like drafting the resolution and the report. So then the secretary and the chairperson both have a very important role to play in the simulation. Are there any questions till now? Any questions? Okay. So the thing about procedure is I generally, it's hard as such. I don't usually tell people, okay, you know what, just spend a lot of time on it, but here I would really emphasize on that you take notes. Of course, we will be uploading the slides, the PowerPoint will be uploaded, you don't have to worry about that. The only problem is that given the procedure requires a sort of emphasis on detail, focus on the details, right? As I said, I can ask me any question you want, even to the smallest detail, it's fine. But please do ask me questions. Yeah? Alright, so is there any confusion in the role of the chairperson and the secretary? Or for that matter, for the membership representatives? Alright. So, what is your role as a delegate? It's a very important question because it sets the tone in which the competition is going to sort of progress, right? You're a member state representative. This I keep saying over and over and over again. You represent a country, okay? But what is the nature of the person who does it in real life? A real life diplomat at the United Nations is an extremely well respected individual, especially in the country where he or she hails from. Right? He is a negotiator. He is he's a very learned person. A lot of them boast of a lot of academic qualifications. Some countries emphasize that so much. For example, I think Chile or Peru. There, if you want to have a promotion as a diplomat, for example, if you're like a junior diplomat and you want to be an ambassador, they have a requirement that you must get your PhD. Okay? So a doctorate degree as a requirement for a promotion is unheard of. And you must understand that the caliber of such people is like really high. A learned person, and is trusted by a government. Now why is he trusted by a government? Because he expects you to take the voice of the people and the government to a forum where you're meeting other similar people. Right? Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary is the title given to diplomats of such stature, right? So you can ask me if you ever meet a diplomat, especially ambassadors, they will tell you stories about how they have the ear of the head of state of the country they are posted in, right? That's the kind of power they have, that's the kind of influence they have. So why am I emphasizing on the whole idea that the diplomat is a respected person? Is because I need you to understand that we are treating you in the same way, right? We treat you as the people exactly like how anybody would treat a real diplomat in real life. So the procedure as such, okay, how many of you are here? Okay, how many of you are not first timers? You have been to conferences before. Alright. So I'm assuming that a lot of you, the people who raise their hands are people who are experiencing something like UN USA H1 procedure, right? So this procedure as such, given for MUN, it emphasizes that delegates get more power than the chairperson. So that the chairperson in other sort of procedures, the chairperson has a lot of power. He is not a moderator, but he sort of dictates to you, not dictates as, I'm simplifying it too much. But then, there is not as much democracy and power to the delegates as is present here. The chairperson is here to help you, not for you to run on the whims of the chairperson. Okay, you will be firmly in control. The chairperson is obliged to do anything what the delegates want as a committee. I need you to keep that in mind. So no chairperson can dictate to you as such what to do. Of course, I understand that's like sort of a vague statement and it's a little broad. But I need you to understand that a lot more respect is sort of emphasized for the delegates. Right? How to address each other. Now since you're a diplomat, it's that since we assume that you are people of repute, of a lot of really, a big person, we emphasize that you know how to address each other in a similar fashion, right? So we have rules regarding how we address each other. So to the members of the Secretariat, for example, today you have ROC members here around you helping you with the mics and helping you with any other problems. We will have volunteers there as well in the conference. We will have many volunteers to help you with the chits, to help you with any other matters that you may require assistance with. You have to treat them with a lot of respect as well, right? So, kindly address them as honorable ma'am or honorable sir, because they are important to you as well. It's a symbiosis, so to speak. You all require each other. So, you need to emphasize respect. The conference officials. Your conference officials are again people you have elected. They are one amongst you. They also have diplomatic credentials, right? So, when you are referring to them in your speeches and all that, please refer to them as things like Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Secretary. These are titles. Okay, so then, if you must know, diplomats who have a level of rank of ambassador, they are referred to as Your Excellency in real life. Your Excellency. So, keeping that in mind, please treat your chairperson also as such. And of course, your fellow delegates, how you interact with each other. A lot of conferences, at least I've been to earlier, what tends to happen is that, okay, this is an inevitable process in an MU, and you start dehumanizing. Your fellow delegates is no longer people, but they are countries. Right? So, it's no longer, hey XYZ, it's hey China, hey America, things like that. Now, do not use the words hey China or hey America, that's not how it is. You have to say honorable representative of the People's Republic of China or honorable representative of India. Like that. When you are addressing each other, even in your speeches, as well as in your normal interactions, please do so, at least within the confines of the conference. It is not really our business how you address each other outside, but within the conference, these are the rules with which you have to follow. Okay. Another sort of a rule that is imposed in a conference such as ours is that when you're delivering your speeches, right, it is required of you to refer to yourself in the third person. The use of I, me, you, these are not allowed. So if you want to refer to yourself, you'll have to say the delegate of or the representative of, okay, if I'm Uzbekistan, right? The delegate of Uzbekistan would like to say this, or the representative of Uzbekistan would like to say that. Whatever be the case. So even when you're referring to yourself, refer to yourself in the third person. Because that also has a logic. Now last session, as I said, you're representing people, you're not representing yourselves. Same process sort of plays out here, where you're not referring to yourself, you're representing your people. Right? Are there any questions you may have at this point? Alright. So how does the conference begin? Right? We have a set order of events, a sequence of events as it plays out. We start off with a minute of silence or a minute of prayer. Why do we do this? We do this, so the United Nations each year in the General Assembly session, whenever it happens in September, they don't get to meet very regularly in a year. So when they do, they are they're just like, they're feeling sorry for all the disasters, the bad events, crises, and all manner of disasters that have been happening over the last year. And they are mourning for the people that have lost their lives, who are suffering. And sort of they are emphasizing that principle that the work is still remaining. What we do is important here. So we have the minute of silence. Then we start with the roll call. Of course, the chairperson also will be telling you how you get to roll call, because all this is in a sequence and there's a particular manner of saying so, right? Your roll call is a very important part of the process. Now let me tell you why. So when you're in school, right? When you're in school, when your teacher takes your attendance, so your teacher says, okay, X, Y, Z, you say present, right? It is a similar process at the United Nations. However, there's a sort of a change, not a change, an addition, right? So instead of just present, you have two options. You have present and present and voting. These two have completely different context to it, right? Okay, so has anybody here done UN for MUN before? Alright, for those who have done UN for MUN before, can you identify for me the difference between present and voting? The lady there.
In present, means in the end, if you want to sign a treaty or something, in present you have three options: yes, no, and absent. Absent means we don't want to tell our opinion. And if you choose present and voting, in that case you have to tell yes or no.
Perfect. Can somebody tell me why that happens? Why is there a differentiation?
There is a differentiation because like some countries are very poor. So like if there are some rich countries, they can they will not take their goods and all of them. So like they give some kind of option for them.
Okay, not as such, but it's alright. This is a good attempt. Thank you so much. Anybody else would like to sort of attempt it? The gentleman over there? Oh, wait. The lady over here.
It depends on the country's foreign policy.
Okay. Would you like to elaborate on that?
So it depends on whether your country would like to sign the resolution. So if your country is in good condition, if their finance and economic status is good, then it will go for signing resolutions and hence it will go for president voting. If not so, it will go for president.
Okay. It's something like that. You see, foreign policy has a lot of determinants as we discussed last time. But your present and voting status is a clear foreign policy indication, right? So you use present. A lot of people say that, so that when it comes to present, as the lady had just said, you have full right to not vote at the last outcome document that comes. It could be a resolution, it could be a report. So anything substantive, you can say, okay, I don't wish to vote on it, right? So when does that come? That comes when, let's say, okay, so then I'll put a scenario in front of you. Let's say I have allies, we all have formed a bloc. There's a resolution by another bloc, and it's favorable to me, it actually is, but it really upsets my allies. I want to vote for it, but I risk some sort of a consequence on this front, right? So I'm in sort of a catch-22 position. So how do I get out of it? I get out of it by abstaining. I'm saying I'm neither voting yes nor no. I wash my hands of responsibility. Yeah. So that is a clear foreign policy. So then it's clear. A lot of people use it in a strategic sense, in a way that, okay, I'm keeping my options open. In case a resolution or any sort of an outcome document is not in my favor, or in another way it is in my favor but it's upsetting some allies, I shall choose not to vote on it. I shall avoid any catch-22 situations with this tool. But the next question that comes is, well, then everybody should be using president. Why would you even bother with the president voting? Why would you say that, okay, I am going to vote yes or vote no? But that option exists and people do take it. Can someone tell me why?
It's more like a symbolic gesture. If you say president voting, it shows your commitment towards getting the issue resolved. Like you're not going to say that you're not going to abstain on the draft resolution. It means that you're committed to either say yes or no and get the issue finished for once and for all.
Perfect. Thank you. So, president voting signifies a certain unwavering commitment in terms of foreign policy, right? So, in any case, now if you look at things like the Israel-Palestine issue, why does the United States come and whenever the roll call happens, they say president voting? They know, because they know it. Okay, if this is going to implicate Israel in any way, we are going to say no. We don't have to sort of waiver our commitments. There is no doubt. So then, this is again reinforced by the fact that President Obama, like recently in a few years, each time he goes to say IPAC or any other Jewish bloc, he keeps saying that the security of Israel is not up for debate. So he's reaffirming that sort of commitment to his ally, right? A similar principle works here. It's symbolic, as the gentleman just said, that I'm here to vote and I know where I stand. There is no yes, no, there's no middle ground. I know what to do. So that's why you use the president voting, right? Your roll call will be as per your country. You will be seated also as such. So then alphabetically we'll arrange your placards. You'll have to sit there, and your roll call will be done in a similar fashion, where you will be having a sort of, each delegate will be called out. There is a delegate of Afghanistan, delegate of Albania, and then your roll call will be recorded, right? How it influences your final vote on in the outcome document? As I said, it signifies certain foreign policy. So please understand that you may want to appear strategic, but at the same time it could backfire on you, because if you show sort of a wavering, if you show some sort of a wavering when you're not supposed to be showing wavering, it's a foreign policy violation. So be very careful when you're selecting your roll call, right? So quorum. Can someone tell me what quorum is? Anybody?
The minimum number of, for instance, if you look at the Lok Sabha, 1/10 of the members should be present for the session to hand. So the minimum number of members necessary for the session to go on.
Yeah, so that's exactly what quorum is. Quorum is basically, I need a certain number of delegates to be there for me to even begin these discussions. At Pune 1, each committee needs 1/4 of members present in order to start proceedings, right? And what do I mean by this 1/4? Your 1/4, this quorum is determined after your roll call is done, right? So, okay, let's say this is a gathering here, I have taken all your roll call. So if I have to continue after this, I need just 1/4 of you to be here, and the rest can leave the committee if they wish. Not leave for like anything else, but for substantive, productive settings. It's not a tea break. You can't just keep going on. That's not how it works. Alright. So yeah. So then the 1/4 will determine. Alright. So then this is the minimum number of people that is required to sit. The rest can leave. Can conduct negotiations, lobbying, things like that. It gives you that kind of flexibility because this becomes crucial, especially in your when you're coming to the end, when you're making your document. You realize that, oh, you know what, I can sit in committee and at the same time I'm not able to draft, because please keep in mind a lot of drafting problems happen because of technical stuff like, okay, I can't use my laptop in committee, right? I have to go out, what do I do? But then I also need my fellow delegates to be there because I need their views, right? I need their views, what do I do? Okay, let some of us sit here, continue the discussion, while the rest of us go out and we'll finish it up. Let's put everything together, let's have a draft. So this gives you that sort of flexibility. Remember, you need to remember the quorum. So then the chairperson sets the quorum saying that, okay, 1/4 of whoever's here, whoever's present. Also, one thing that I missed out is something called procedural votes. Procedural substantive votes. So procedural votes are basically any votes regarding procedure requires that all of you vote irrespective of your roll call. The roll call you can't abstain from a procedural vote. So for example, there's a motion on the floor about breaking for tea. Some people can't say, okay, I don't know whether I want to break for tea or not. You have to vote on it. It's either yes or no. Maybe you don't want it. Okay, vote no. But you have to vote on that. However, if it's a resolution, and things like a resolution or a report, when it's substantive involving content, then you may choose to abstain. Only then. Otherwise, you have to vote. You all have to vote yes or no. Is that distinction sort of clear? Are there anything you'd like to get clarified? Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate the difference between present and present voting?
Okay. Present means you're there. You're present in committee. You can at the end of the session, if you have a resolution, you can vote yes, you can vote no, or you can choose not to vote by saying abstain. Okay. But present in voting means only yes or no. You have to vote basically. That's the only difference. Otherwise, both indicate your presence in committee. Alright? Has that satisfactorily answered your question? Alright, wonderful. Any other questions you may have? The lady there. Just a minute, ma'am. Just a minute.
What exactly is the requirement for present and voting? Both the options are yes and no. So then why do we actually require present and voting? I didn't get it when you said that it shows the affirmative or your policy. Why?
Okay. Yeah. So then when I say it's important, it's symbolic, what I mean is that if you choose present and voting, you know you're serious about it. You're not going to change your position. You have certain goals in mind. If any resolution fits that goal, you will say yes to it. Otherwise, it's no. That threshold you have already kept in mind. Okay, these are my requirements in this committee. If it satisfies these requirements, yes. If not, no. I will vote no against it. There is no catch-22 there because you're very clear. Right? For example, let's say they are discussing the situation in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea anywhere, and the whole committee sits there and all they do is condemn the country, condemn the DPRK, saying that okay, DPRK is bad, they have human rights abuses and stuff. So DPRK will, as the delegate of DPRK will be in committee, he will say president voting because there is no dilly-dallying on protecting yourself. If it's unfavorable to me, I'm going to vote no. I don't care what my allies think. If China tells me, okay, China tells the DPRK that you know what, you may want to consider this option because it's less critical than what they actually intended. You're still going to say no. There's no dilly-dallying here. You're not in two minds about it. You know what you're talking about. Have I sort of answered your question? Alright. Any other questions regarding the vote? The gentleman here.
What if the resolution does not concern your country?
The resolution, what if the resolution does not concern your country? Is that right? Okay. Any resolution may not, it is very likely that a resolution will not sort of concern your country. But the fact that you have opinions on the issue, that's why you're sitting in a committee, right? You all have opinions on the issue and you want to represent it. If you feel that, you know what, this really, I have no business in this whatsoever, you may choose to abstain. It's fine. As I said, the present and voting threshold means that you have to have that sort of foreign policy. It's alright if you don't have an adequately defined stance towards the issue and you choose to abstain, that's fine. Have I answered your question? Alright. Any other questions? The gentleman there.
Suppose the resolution does not benefit my country, but the other countries in my law.
I didn't get your question.
Suppose you said that when a resolution is passed, it is benefiting me, but not the other countries which are my allies. But what if it's the opposite? Then what am I supposed to do?
So opposite as in the resolution is really bad for me but my allies want it.
Yes.
Right? You can do the same thing. Because you need to sort of take everything into account. If it hurts you, you may not want it. Simple as that. So if you say, so then what's the implication of that? Let me tell you what happens. You say no to the resolution, you upset your allies. You know in the long term they are going to sort of have problems with you and they're your friends, you don't want to really upset them. It's bad for your national interests and therefore it's sort of a foreign policy violation if you look at it that way. Right? So then you may choose to abstain, it's the same process.
Thank you.
The most part. Any other questions? The lady there.
What is the situation in the observation?
Okay. So, given that the observer nations are not allowed to sort of vote, they may just put present. Because the yes, no option doesn't matter. They have no vote in the committee. But as I said, they are free to engage in all discussions, deliberations, even start a resolution. But they can't vote on it. That's the only difference. Yeah. Any other questions? Alright. Yeah.
Well, in the case that the resolution is passed, if a substantial amount of the resolution you agree, but then there's one part which your country is really against, what would you recommend? Like, should we say yes or no?
Okay, so this is I like the question a lot because it talks a lot about compromise and negotiation, right? So as far as if there's something you find really objectionable to, it is recommended that you sort of sort it out within the block itself, right? You tell them that no, if you want my support on this, if you want my vote on this, you need to remove this clause. This affects me bad. Try to lobby, try to negotiate with them. If that doesn't work out, it can be left to you if you want to say no.
Okay. Also, we do not have options for yes with rights and no with rights for vote,
No,
right?
there will not be an explanation of the vote is not we'll take a call on that depending on the time you have left. So if let's say at the end there is some substantial time left, the chairperson may choose to open may allow you to explain your vote. But again, that's very optional. It is most likely not going to happen. Any other questions? Lady there.
Is the roll call going to be taken every time before any decision is taken?
I'm sorry?
Is the roll call going to be taken every time before any decision is taken?
Yes, it will. So then, when we say session, we are dividing it between, let's say, the start of the day to lunch, subsequently from that to tea, and then the final session. So then there are like 3-4 sessions each day, and a roll call is taken at the beginning of each.
Do we just say yes or no, or do we write or something like that?
No, it will be a roll call vote. You will have to vote with the same preference you did at the beginning of the day. So if you voted present in the morning, at the first session, the subsequent roll calls cannot change. You have to vote present in that.
So Okay, in the morning if you say present the whole day, we have to say present.
Yeah.
Then voting.
You may be able to change that the next day, but on that day you have to vote present in all. Any other questions? The lady here. We will be answering all questions.
What if we don't know the topic or what we are discussing? And try to change to present and voting or present.
Okay, I'm not very clear with the question. You're saying if you don't know the topic.
Yes, on exactly what we are discussing. So at present, at the morning, I am present, but at the end of the day, it's like yes, I want to vote this, and I'll be present and voting.
Okay, the basic assumption is that since you're present in committee, you will know what the topic is. Because we are discussing only the agenda. There's nothing else being. So when the agenda is set, we're not discussing anything else. That's right. But you can't change your vote except the next day you can't change the vote. Alright? The lady there. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Yes.
Could you explain how do we go about negotiating with the allies of some other countries when we are voting something?
I will get to that in the subsequent slides because I will cover that in detail. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to request you to repeat the voting. There are two types of voting you said.
Right.
The first type is present where I say present, yes, no and abstain. The second point is what we could not understand from behind.
Okay.
I have not understood it.
Alright.
So if you can just repeat it one more time.
So would you like to know present and you want to know both?
We've understood the first point.
Okay,
Present,
alright.
absent and abstain.
Perfect.
So that's the first part. When I can choose my role whether I want to.
Yes.
So the latter part where you say you have to say something, the procedural something.
The procedural vote.
So just can you repeat that point?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So anything that pertains to the content of the agenda is a substantive section, is a substantive vote. So the only substantive vote in your committees as of now are resolutions and reports. That's it. Okay? The resolution and report is the only substantive part of it. In every other matter where a vote is asked, you have to vote. The last resolution, the last report, that is where you can abstain if you have voted present. With the rest, you have to vote. You can't abstain from that. Even if you have voted present, you have to vote a vote. Is that sort of understood, ma'am? I mean, sure, ma'am. If you have anything specific, you may choose to ask. So no problem. Any other questions? Oh yeah.
Is there any scenario where you would like for example, you said you can change your vote on the second?
Right.
Is there any scenario where you should do that?
Okay, so it depends on how the committee progresses, right? Because it depends on how the representation of each committee goes. So if certain delegates may sort of deviate from the positions and sort of undermine your interests, even though in real life it's not supposed to do so, that option is available to you that okay, maybe I should change my vote because the representation is not as such. Have I answered the question? Or any other questions?
Yeah. As you have said before that there are going to be four parts to it, divided into 4 parts of the whole session. So how long will each of them be for?
We will be releasing the schedule like a week or two before the conference actually starts. That will detail to what time the sessions are.
Alright.
While voting, would you put your own country's priorities before your allies' priorities?
Of course. Any other questions? Any at all? All right. So, okay, is quorum understood to all? Is there any questions you may have on this? Even if it's unclear, I sincerely recommend that you ask and sort of get it clarified. Alright. So the provisional agenda. Oh, yes, we have a question.
In the forum, I don't understand the lobbying.
Lobbying flexibility. Okay, so then, as such, it's not It's just an implication. So then, when you're doing a negotiations and stuff, so what happens in an agreement is that you always need to decide what your priorities are. So if proceedings in the committee's proceedings have to continue, I need 1/4 of the members here, right? But at the same time, a lot of you you're working on a resolution, you're really excited about it, you have a lot of points, there's very little time. So it gives you that sort of flexibility to go out of the committee hall and sort of talk to each other and in an informal manner without any moderation as such. So you can talk to each other. The quorum gives you that flexibility. So that's pretty much what it is. As such, it's not a requirement. It's not a specific procedure as such. It's just an advantage I was trying to highlight. Yeah. Have I answered your question? All right. So the provisional agenda. As of now, your agendas, in a very technical sense of the term, is temporary. Okay? Of course, I can guarantee there will be no changes. These are going to be the agendas given to you. For more or less for our own selfish reasons, because it's hard to generate all sorts of study guides and executive memorandums all over again. That's not something we are really budgeted to do, right? So your agendas is going to be fixed, but there's a formality where you require to adopt the agenda. That this is a permanent agenda. This is what we're going to talk about. As such, the procedure is that when the chairperson will ask for motions. No, what the chairperson will do is the chairperson is going to ask your permission to adopt the agenda. All you have to do is say yes. If you have an objection, you can raise so, and then a vote will be taken. But it is assumed that it's a consensus. So he will ask, okay, may I adopt this agenda? Of course, the wording is different, but more or less it's that. May I adopt the agenda? Are there any objections? If there are objections, then it has to be taken to a vote. Right? Then a vote needs to take place and it has to pass. But if there are no objections, it's considered adopted. That yes, now this is the topic of discussion. Are there any questions on this? I think this is pretty crisp and it's clear cut. But are there any questions regarding this? Alright. The general speakers list. Now this, yes.
I didn't understand the agenda part.
The provisional agenda. I'm sorry?
I didn't understand the agenda part.
So basically your chairperson will ask you if you can formally adopt the agenda. Like, can we discuss this? Right?
That is the agenda.
Yeah, the agendas that have been given to you are set. There's not going to be changes in it, but it's a formality. So I was just making you aware of the formality that exists before the debate can actually begin. Right? Okay. Oh, sorry. So the entire debate, as it happens in Pune Model United Nations, happens in the general speakers list. It starts when your chairperson declares a list open, and then you can add your names to it, to the list, right? So okay, so the chairperson says, all right, the list is now, the general speakers list is now open, delegates wishing to speak. So that's when delegates add their names and sort of create a sequence of speakers. So then how the chairperson recognizes the speakers is his discretion. That's the only one he gets, right? So then, okay, fine, with Bangladesh, China, Russia, Sweden, like that. It goes in that order. That's the order of speakers. The speaker's time on each speech may not exceed 2 minutes. This is a very clear. Okay, so then this is a declaration from the Secretary General that this is now the time set for the general speakers list, right? Notification of time. So then often a question that is asked to us is that how do we know that 2 minutes is up? Because we are giving a speech and then we don't know as to how much time we have taken and how much time is left, right? So then usually chairpersons have their own systems. They would say one tab at 1 minute 30 seconds, and then finally when you finish 2 minutes, it's a 2 tab. Usually, chairpersons may have their different systems for notification. Even if you have reached the end of your speech, end of your time, let's say if your 2 minutes is up, just try and conclude the speech. You don't have to sort of sit down right there. That's not how it works. Just wind up And try to be as considerate with the time as possible, please, because please remember that there are a lot of other speakers willing to also speak. You're taking their time as well, right? So as a basic courtesy to your fellow delegates, kindly stick to the time limits. All right? The unwritten rule. Okay, yeah, I'm so sorry. There's a question.
If every delegate denies the agenda, then what would be the topic of the discussion? Like, will we change it?
I'm sorry.
If every delegate denies the topic of like the agenda, then what would be the topic of the discussion? Like, will they change it at that?
No, not really. Because okay, I'll tell you why that whole idea comes. To begin with, that's a highly unlikely scenario. I'm certain nobody wants impromptu topics. That is one. In the real United Nations, if you ever look at the list of agendas that is allotted to each committee, they have to handle anywhere between 10 to 50 agendas. The General Assembly handles 97 items each session. In that sense, for each meeting, they have to specify the agenda. In our case, we have only one, which is why it's a formality. In the real UN, it becomes important because there are multiple agendas. In our case, that is not an issue. Have I answered your question? Alright. If that happens, I guess you just stop and go home. That's the best. That's the most direct way I can answer. Any other questions? Alright. So the unwritten rule on subsequent. Oh yeah, we have a question about that.
I didn't understand the speaking list. Exactly what is it?
You didn't understand the speakers list?
Yes, that's the speaker's list.
Okay. So once your agenda is adopted, the debate is now officially started. Right? So to debate, people have to come in a sequence, right? So okay, first came China, and then he made his points clear. Then Sweden came, she made her points clear. Like that. The speakers list is this order. That this is the sequence in which the speakers are going to speak. That's basically what the general speakers list is.
And how many chances are we going to get for speaking for 2 minutes?
Right.
How many chances do we get?
Okay, so I will get to that. It's actually something I will cover even in the last point of the presentation. The slide now. So the unwritten rule on subsequent speeches, what is that? In the union, yes ma'am.
If we finish our speech before the given time,
If you have finished before the time is allotted. Okay, so then in the case of Pune Model United Nations, you just return back to your seat. There is no concept of yielding as such. If you are familiar with those old procedures, they have a procedure of yielding where you can yield to questions and comments. That's not present in our procedure as in this conference. Alright. The unwritten rule, okay, I'm so sorry, yeah.
Is there a possibility that you don't get to speak like at all?
Highly unlikely. If you want to speak, the chairperson will recognize you. Of course, the rule is a little different if you're speaking subsequently, like many times. He or she may choose not to they may reduce the number of times you speak as to give everyone a chance, but as such, no denial will be there. There won't be denial. There's a question from the gentleman here. Can we have the mic passed?
It's not compulsory to register your name to the speaker's list.
It is not. It is not. So, please remember, it is not mandatory for you to speak in the debate because there is no element where we are going to force you to speak anything. If you speak, it's because you want to speak. No chairperson, no secretary, not even the secretary general is going to come and compel you to speak. Oh, you know what, you're the delegate of this, you have to speak. No. We don't believe in a philosophy where coercion is required. We don't. Yes, sir.
Like, what if you need to ask a question? Like, you really need to ask a question to another country. How will you do that? Because in the GSL, you said you cannot ask questions in the.
You may ask your questions through your own speeches. As such, we don't derive a procedure separately where you can ask questions, but you can use your speeches as well. So, for example, let's say a delegate made some comment on a particular subject. So you can see clarification within your speeches. So then you can say in reference to the delegate of United States of America's speech, the delegate of Uzbekistan would like to ask such. The problem with that is that the delegate is not obliged to answer your question, but I guess that's the case in any which way. It is the delegate's wish if he wants to answer your question or not.
Like I was going to ask, like if they do not ask, like you can't force them to
Yeah.
answer the question.
Yeah, you can't force them, there's no compulsion as such. Because your thoughts, anything you say is your own, is come from your own consent. And we respect that completely. Yeah? Any other questions? Yeah.
You said that the GSL timing is 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So can it be changed by a vote from the delegates by common consensus?
So yes, it can. Technically it can. The Secretary General determines the time initially. If there's a consensus that the speaker's time needs to be increased, as such, yes, it can technically. But please make sure it either reduces by, we'll set a band, so then it can maybe increase to 3 minutes, or maybe reduce by say 30 seconds. So then it can't get, alright, so then it's simple. It can increase to it can increase by another minute. You can extend it to 3 minutes, but it can't exceed that. Alright? Any other questions? Yeah.
How is the sequence determined?
The sequence is determined by the discretion of the chairperson. So the chairperson decides, okay, we'll have this person speak first, this delegate speak first, and that delegate speak later after that. So in the chairperson's mind, they have different considerations of when they are deciding that. Is this region, are all the regions represented in the list? Has the delegate spoken before? If the delegate has not spoken before, that person gets priority. Like that. So then different priorities play out. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
When we're given a chance to speak on the general speakers list, do we have to talk about our resolution and drafting and all that?
The general speakers list can be used to talk about anything which is in purview of the agenda. Absolutely anything. So I hope you remember when we discussed last time, the last session, the reading session. I had discussed something known as the ideal opening speech, elements of the opening speech. So that should ideally continue opening those elements. But in the subsequent speeches, you can talk about the resolution, you can talk about measures, you can talk about absolutely anything as long as you pertains to agenda. Any other questions?
First off, I assume there's a procedure to, for example, you're requesting the chairperson that you need to be, your country needs to be added to the general speakers list. What exactly is the procedure for writing the check? And also, as that person clearly said that you need to come to some other countries with some form of statement. So do you have to maybe you specify that in the chat so that the chairperson may consider that debate should progress, and should that reason be specified or can that not?
Okay, so just repeat for me the first part of your question.
First part is basic procedure.
Okay, so if you want to add your name to general speakers list, please note that the chairperson will constantly ask you. Right? So then, okay, there are few speakers left, let's take some more. Other than that, you can send a chit to the chairperson saying, kindly add my name to the general speakers list, and they will do so. That is to answer the first part of your question. The second part has to addressing the different, you have something to address to another delegate. How do you do that? You have two options available to you. One, you subsume that within your own speeches. That is the most ideal and the best method preferred for you to do so. The second thing available to you is something known as a right of reply, which I shall deal with in subsequent slides. Any other questions? Yeah.
Is it compulsory for a country to have a speaker?
I'm sorry?
Is it compulsory for the country to have a speaker? Each country?
You are the speaker by virtue of being a delegate.
So if you want to speak, it's compulsory.
It is not compulsory. It is not compulsory for you to speak. You don't want to speak, it's fine. Yeah.
They have spoken once already in general speakers list. Can I request the chairperson to add me again?
Yes, in short, yes. There's a few more conventions behind it. I will come to that right now. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yes. If you ever delegate want to appeal something or ask something or anything like that, is it black card system or something else you have to do?
There's a placard system.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
When I'm speaking, can I make a stand on something that does not directly affect my country?
I'm sorry?
When I'm speaking, can I make a stand on something that does not directly affect my country?
You may, as long as it pertains to the agenda, it's fine. You may choose to say things which are not part of your country. It's alright. But it has to pertain to agenda. That's the only requirement.
So you said there are no reasons. What does that mean?
Okay, so that is a system present in other procedures. It is not present in this one. So then I think it would be best if I not talk about it right now. We could interact maybe later on a personal level, but I would not wish to sort of confuse the delegates. Yeah.
Is there any way in which you can ask someone to speak for you or ask if I can speak for someone else?
Okay, so when we're determining the sequence of speakers, you can't ask to be placed in any specific location. The only thing you can change, let's say you're next on the general speakers list, you can ask to be put at the end. You can do that. So, for example, sometimes delegates understand, you know what, I have a speech ready, but I have some points to add because some speakers spoke before that and he said something I want to really reply to. I'm not ready. The only fair way to do that is to go to the end of the line. That's the only change. You can't say, okay, I would like to be third from last or any of that. That order is not good. Alright? The gentleman there.
Is the list visible to us?
I'm sorry?
Is the general speakers
The list?
visible?
So then most classrooms have the projector. If there's anything, if there are any other problems, you can always ask your secretary or the chairperson what the order of the list is and he will gladly tell you what that order is. We had another question from, okay, yeah, there, sorry.
I'm still confused as to how the speakers are like, so say I say, I'm going to speak. So how am I going to be notified that this is where I'm going to speak, this is how I'm going to speak?
Okay, so you will know by the virtue of the order in which your chairperson recognizes the speakers. Okay?
How does the chairperson do that?
He just calls it out loud. Okay, so Bangladesh followed by the delegate of India followed by the delegate of Sweden. So that he calls out that order.
Is there like a specific thing behind it or it's like it's a common chairperson?
I didn't understand.
Is there like a specific reason why like a few countries go like me?
No. Just by the virtue of the fact that the delegate has raised the placards when they have been asked,
Okay.
that's it. That's the only requirement. You have to volunteer to speak. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Procedure for everyone is same all over the world.
There are different procedures. This is the one given to us by none other than the United Nations themselves. There are other procedures such as even USA, H1, the Hague International Court of United Nations. They have different rules. So this is what we are simulating is UN for everyone, which is given to us by none other than the United Nations. I think, okay, are there any questions? Yeah.
Is there any specific number of people who can talk in generalist or any number of people can talk?
Anybody can speak. No, there is no number as such. As long as the session is open, you can speak on it. There is no limits on that. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know, since we'll be speaking in intervals of 2 minutes or like after a round, other people will take note of what we want to state. But does committee expect like a formal report out of it, like, or directly based on what we just speak, we'll draft the resolution at the end?
So a formal report as such is not expected about your own statements is not expected from you. The chairperson makes a note of all your points and given. So then every meeting, clear records are kept. Your chairperson writes, okay, this person said, this delegate said this, she introduced this concept. All that is maintained by them and they will make the report for you. Right? Any other questions?
So how should we communicate with the chairperson? Like I want to tell him that I want to make my speech in the last. So how should I communicate with him?
You may choose to send a chit. So there will be volunteers there to help you pass it around. It can happen like that.
Thank you.
Alternatively, you can approach them when a speaker is not speaking. That is also possible. So let's say there's a gap between two speakers. You may choose to approach the chairperson or the secretary and ask them, hey, this is what I want, and can that happen? So that is also available to you. Alright, again, yes.
How do I notify the chairperson that I want to give a subsequent speech?
How do you?
How do I notify the chairperson that I want to give a subsequent speech?
Your chairperson constantly asks for names. Okay, so he will put it in an order. When it's somewhere coming to a close, he asks for more speakers. Then you may add, or you may send a chit. Either. Any other questions? Yeah. We good.
Is it necessary to submit a written form of the speech?
No, absolutely not. We had a question here, yeah, gentleman here.
Can you elaborate how to communicate and something to the delegates or the chairperson?
As in,
How to say something, how to command something?
you can, the only requirement of you is that you put it in a third person format, that's it. So how you wish to ask, I can give you an example, but other than that I can't tell you as a
So just randomly say, I want to say something.
a random sort of demand is not entertained unless it's incorporated in your speech. So anything you want to ask has to happen through your speech. Yeah? No other way, unfortunately. Yeah.
Can more than one delegate from a country speak in the GSL?
Okay, so if I'm clear with your question, more than one delegate as in?
From a country can speak in the GSL.
So each committee has one person representing one country, right? So that person may speak. As such, there are no multiple people speaking who are representing one country, right? Or have I answered your question?
Yes.
Alright, wonderful. Alright, so what I'd like to do is I want to talk about the last point here, and I think it would be very prudent if we had like a 10-minute break, right? Okay. So the last point is the unwritten rule of subsequent speeches. Now, the reason I have to talk about this is because there's an unwritten rule that if you're speaking more than once, right, it is expected of you as a diplomatic courtesy to apologize for taking the time with the committee. Now I understand the whole notion of that seems a little perplexing, but in the real United Nations what happens is that many committees have full representation, 193 countries, okay? Add to that civil society organizations, other UN agencies who have representation, they're all there. So then you are talking about another 250 to 300 people sitting in the committee, right? All wanting to express their opinions. If you speak again, so what happens then, if you speak again, it's sort of understood that you're taking someone else's time, and therefore it is sort of, it is courtesy for you to apologize for the same, that you are taking someone's time. Okay, so I apologize. It's a similar principle here as well. If you wish to speak again, there's no cap on how many times you can speak. You can speak as many number of times you want. But if you speak more than once, it's expected that you sort of apologize. It's very simple, in fact. So when you're speaking for the second time, you can say the delegate of Uzbekistan would like to apologize for taking the committee's time, however, and then go on with the speech. It's just a matter of adding another line to your speech. That's it. All right. Are there any questions to this?
It's not this, but it's sort of, if you are quoting a statistic in a speech, you have to specify the source.
It would be preferred because it sort of adds credibility to your views. So it's preferred. Any other questions? Alright, so I think it would be very prudent if we sort of took a small break. We should convene at what? 3:50? Okay, so we're at a break right now. Please kindly convene at 3:50. Thank you. I now call this house to order. I request any remaining delegates outside to come and reconvene. Alright, so within the break that has come about, are there any questions you may have on anything that we have covered till now? Anything at all? Alright. Since there are no questions, we should move on to the next slide. Deviations from the general speakers list. Now, a very pressing question, especially from people from the other who are conversant with other rules of procedure, is how do you bring sort of specificity in the whole debate, because it feels very general, right? So there are certain deviations that do happen in the course. So then the combination of these deviations forms a cycle. I'll get to that. The first is something known as a formal informal. So, the formal informal is sort of a system where you can, it's not a break as such, but it is not, you're not set in the confines of the general debate, right? To propose the formal informal, you have to get something known as a motion. We'll get to that. And formal informal can be used for anything. So if a formal informal is in place, it would be you could move around in your places. You can talk to each other within the confines of the same committee hall, and you can lobby, you can negotiate, you can come up with drafts, you can even discuss. So then the initial, so then often what happens in real life, not in real life, in money, in a session, what happens is that the first formal informal delegates usually take it to sort of narrow down the topics they'd like to talk about. So okay, we have, so then the first few speeches were all general, everyone's made their opening speeches, they have outlined their stands, their positions. So, but where do we go from here? That's when a formal informal usually comes into play. So then a formal informal is sort of suggested. If it's passed, delegates can move about. So then, okay, then all of the delegates come together and they list it out. All right, do you think we should discuss this? Do you think this is a pertinent part of our agenda? What are your opinions about this? So that you can have, since it's a more face-to-face sort of interaction, you don't have to actually, it's not as such moderated. It's faster and it speeds up your negotiations and stuff. So then that's a method. The formal informal may also be used by a chairperson in a different way. So sometimes what happens is that, okay, topics are emerging, but there is not enough focus on any one particular section or any one particular topic. Everyone's speaking, everyone's trying to push their own agenda. So if I'm discussing death penalty, if the committee is discussing death penalty, someone is discussing things like age to be given the death penalty, someone is asking something else about the methods of death penalty, and they're pushing their own different topics. The chairperson may feel that, you know what, we need to stick to one issue. We need to solve that out and then move on to the next. In that case, the chairperson may introduce a formal informal. He may even conduct a general discussion. Alright, what would you like to say? What would you like to say? In a very informal sort of way. This is subsumed within this procedure. It's a very set procedure, set time, and it's a deviation from the general speakers list. I shall of course tell you how a motion is proposed in Pune 1. It will be dealt with in subsequent slides. Is this clear to all? Are there any questions regarding the formal informal? I understand I have not explained it in detail, but as such, this is the explanation I can give without a specific scenario. So, the gentleman there.
Can we use personal pronouns while the formal informal session?
Yes. So the rules are a lot relaxed as opposed to the general speakers list. The general speakers list is where the most formal form of communication is used. But when it comes to the formal informal, you can talk about like normal people, except that you have to be respectful when you're dealing with each other. That's the only difference. So that's an answer question. Okay, great. Any other questions? Alright. The informal. This is not a rigid set procedure as such. What the formal informal basically means is that you can walk out of committee at any point of time, provided you are not interrupting any speaker while he or she is speaking. That's what it means. There is no, it's not a different procedure as such, it's just a name given to it. So let's say I'm a speaker, I'm speaking here, but 2 or 3 delegates decide, you know what, we have our own proposals, we need to sort of, we have our own things to do, and we need to go out because we need to talk to each other. Communication is very important and we need to talk to each other. We can't do that just by speeches. So let's go out. So if I finish my speech, the chairperson, there is always a little time between 2 speakers. You may choose to walk out. You don't need to specify why. You don't have to specify for how long. You can leave. Just make sure you're leaving for productive reasons, as I say. It is not a recess for you. Okay? Use it to sort of get some productivity going. Alright? Are there any questions? I understand there can be a little confusion between formal and informal as well as informal and formal. It's okay. Yeah, we'll get to it. Oh, you first.
How do you ask chair if you want to start and formal?
So then we'll be discussing an introduction of motions in the next few slides. So you have to introduce a formal motion for it. I will get to that in the next few slides.
But if some speaker is speaking and we just walk out, wouldn't we disrespect the speaker?
It will now. So that is why you have to wait for the speaker to finish and formally sit back down. When there is a time between 2 speakers, right? So there's always a time, right? Okay, I've come to this podium, I spoke, I finished, I'm walking back and the other one is coming. There's a time, in that you can walk out. Any other questions? There was a question from the gentleman there, I think.
How do we ask the other delegates to come out for an informal?
So what happens is that there's a chit system. So you will be in constant communication with your delegates through chits. In that you can ask the delegate, or that can we just come out for a formal informal? Sorry, informal, whatever. Can we just walk out of the committee and discuss on something you would like? Yeah.
Is there any time limit for informal?
Formal informal or informal informal?
Informal.
No. Because you're not announcing to anybody that you're leaving, you're just leaving. So nobody is there to ask you, okay, how long are you going for? When will you be back? None of that. Any other questions? Just the gentleman here.
After we finish going around, we come back inside. If we have to wait for somebody to finish.
I'm glad you asked that because it's the same process. So let's say we have a committee here and someone has gone out and they're waiting to come in. If you are speaking, so they have to wait till you finish and then they can come back. But as such, that's the only procedure. So then no problem with that. Alright. Any other questions? Yeah, we have some questions from them.
Yeah, so could you please explain the formal and informal procedure?
You want me to repeat it?
Formal and informal.
No problem. So the formal informal is a deviation from the general speakers list. So what you do is basically set aside time from the debate to maybe indulge in a more informal sort of a setting, so that you can talk face to face, or the chairperson can engage in a general discussion with you, or a question answer round. So that is what basically a formal informal is. You will be in the committee itself, It's just that you don't have to wait to be recognized, and it's not moderated as rigorously as a debate is. That's for the formals, informals. Have I answered your question adequately, ma'am? Perfect. We will get to gentlemen. Can you just pass the mic to gentlemen, followed by.
Was the time limit for formal and formal?
I'm sorry?
Was there time limit for formal and informal?
The time limit for the formal and informal is determined by the delegate who is proposing the motion to start it, right? So, when you want a formal and informal, you have to specify the time. So, the maximum time that is possible is half an hour. But within that, so if you want to have one for 15 minutes, you want to have one for 10 minutes, the time is to be decided by the person who's proposing it. Alright? The gentleman here had a question. Yeah.
Can you please specify the difference between formal and informal and informal and formal?
Okay, so that's what I was really worried about. But putting a label on informal, I've sort of confused the delegates here. Informal is basically you can walk out. Simple as that. No, there is no procedure as such. You don't tell anybody that you're walking out. You don't have to claim informal. Formal has to be announced. You have to set a time. It's a set deviation. Very standard. You can be in informal during the debate also, even during the formal. You can go out anytime. That you don't have to ask anybody. That's possible. Have I adequately answered your question? I understand it's a little confusing, but don't worry. See, here's the thing. In any conference, it usually takes you a sort of some time. If you observe committee for some time, you will get it. If you don't understand now, it's natural. It happens. You have to observe committee and its proceedings. In that regard, what the Pune team has tried to do is we have sort of tried to create a video to show how the cycle works. So then there's a general debate, there's the formal and informal, right? We are working on that video and I'm hoping in a few days it will come out. That will sort of give you a small idea as to how the cycle works, right? It needs to be seen than heard or read. I can affirm to that. Alright, any other questions?
You said the maximum time for formal and informal is 30 minutes.
Yes.
So is that 30 minutes like one formal and informal motion, or throughout the session right now you take 10?
One formal and informal.
So formal and informal can happen any number of times, 30?
N number of time for a maximum 30 minutes.
And another question, when another delegate is talking, are we allowed to talk to some other delegate when someone else is talking, or you have to wait till they finish?
If you're passing chits, it's fine. Because as such, there is no interruption when the speaker is speaking. You're not talking over the speaker, right? So if there's no disrespect involved, then therefore you're most welcome to do so.
Thank you.
All right? Any other questions? Yeah.
During the formal and informal, you can just walk up to another delegate and speak to him.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. Yeah.
Can you raise a motion while another person is talking to another delegate?
As I said, nothing interrupts the speaker. Absolutely nothing. Right? When the speaker he stops speaking, only then may a motion be proposed. We'll be dealing with that in the subsequent slides. Any other questions? Abhishek, the gentleman here.
Can point of personal privilege cannot be motion anywhere, anytime?
We will deal with the points of all points in subsequent slides. To answer your question, there is no point of personal privilege. So if you wish to leave for, get a drink of water, you want to go to the washroom, just walk off. It's alright. Since we treat you as diplomats and people of high stature, we don't seek to regulate your personal discomforts. You can go out for that. That is not something you have to ask us permission for, and it's not expected of you in fact. So, to answer your question, if there are any other matters that require you to address the general company, for example, if the span is too fast or something like that, just raise your placard. The chairperson will sort of ask you to what point you rise, honorable delegate. That's when you can raise any concerns. But there's no point as such. Any other delegates wishing to ask questions?
When we go out, we miss something particular. So will we be told what it is?
Unfortunately, there you will not be told. You will not be, the points which you have missed will not be repeated. But you may ask the chairperson if you will entertain him. That may work. Yeah.
How do we address the committee for a formal and informal?
So when it comes to formal and informal, the delegates are not gathered as such. It's in an informal setting. So everyone's all around the place. It's like everyone's not seated in the same place. So you have to talk to them like how you talk to normal people, except with a little bit of respect. That's it. Alright. Any other questions? Alright. So I guess we have covered formal informal and the informal in detail. Of course, you may ask me any questions at any other point of time. So how to propose a motion? What is a motion? Right? So for any matter of the committee which requires attention is a motion. For you to introduce a formal informal, you have to there is a procedure with which you do it. Such a procedure is known as proposing a motion. So how do we do it in Pune? We do by raising a T. So how do you do that? You take the placard, you make a T with it. So assume this is the placard, right? You make a T like this, and the chairperson recognizes you to have a motion. Like you have some business that you want to have taken care of. When the chairperson recognizes you, you may bring up the whatever business you have. So okay, if I'm the delegate of Uzbekistan, I really want to have a formal informal. I say, all right, I raise my placard, I do a T. When I'm not interrupting a speaker, please be very careful about that. And I say, honorable delegate of the honorable chairperson, the delegate of Uzbekistan would like to propose a formal informal for the next 20 minutes. The chairperson considers it. He subjects it to a vote. Sometimes he may even tell me, okay, honorable delegate of Uzbekistan, given that we are this close to lunch break, would you rather postpone your formal informal after that? And I may consider, or I may say, oh no, I really want my formal informal. So in such a case, your formal informal is put to a vote, your motion is put to a vote. It has to pass, so that the passing criteria is simple, 50 plus 1. So half the number of members present plus 1 need to vote yes for this to pass. This is a procedural vote, right? It pertains to procedure. And then if it passes, from that time, for the next 15 minutes, you're in a formal informal. You may move about, you may talk to each other, you may lobby with each other. Yeah, so then that's how it's done. So then the time period is specified. Okay, I'm so sorry. The time period is specified. That I need it for exactly 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes you have to convene back. Right? Any questions regarding how to propose a motion? Yeah.
Could you repeat the voting part? Formal and informal.
For a motion,
Yeah.
because this is a motion, all motions are subject to vote, and because there are other matters also that comes under this, but that's fine. The voting is simple. You have, when a motion is proposed, the chairperson asks all delegates in favor. Whoever supports that motion will raise the placards. He counts. He makes sure that it is above majority, and then he passes it. If there's no majority, then it fails. So then you move back to your general speakers list or whatever that was going on at that time. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
You basically conduct it like as soon as the session starts, you must be formal or informal. How do you get to know about it? And what is the formal?
Okay, I'm not clear with your question. Can you repeat that?
Like as soon as the session starts,
Right.
so how do you know that what's going on? Like what if you don't know it's formal and informal going on or something like that?
No, it's you will know because the very nature nature of the discussions will change. So if you're in a general debate, your general speakers list, everyone's seated, everyone's silent, everyone's awaiting their turn to speak. In a formal informal, everyone is all over the place, they're discussing with each other. There are groups of delegates here, groups of delegates there. You find out.
The chairperson will tell us.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions? The gentleman there had a question.
When do we propose a formal info? When do we use it?
Okay, so then you may choose to propose any motion at any point of time, right? The chairperson is not going to ask you for motions. If you feel that, okay, you know what, I have come to a time where I have heard everyone speak, everyone has expressed their views on generally, but now we need to talk about something specific, or maybe we need to expand the scope of topics that we have to talk about. That's when you can choose to introduce a formal informal. Just make sure the speaker is not interrupted. That's all. That's the only requirement. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. So the team model is basically that. So when you use a placard and make a team, that's a team model. All right. All right. So then, during the course of debate, there's going to be certain parts where you have to stop, right? So the first one is suspension of meeting. Let's say we'll be distributing the schedule to you, of course, and then we'll ask. So then what's going to happen is that you have to stop. You have to officially stop the session in order for you to break for lunch or tea or something like that. In the case of things like lunch and tea, you have to suspend the meeting, right? So how do you do that? This is again a motion. Okay? So you raise your placard to make a tea. Chairperson recognizes you and you say, Honorable Chairperson, the delegate to Uzbekistan would like to propose that we suspend the meeting for tea. Alright. He puts it to a vote, passes, you stay. Passes, you leave. You fail, you stay. Simple as that. Mostly never, I can tell you that I have never been to a conference where they have not suspended for lunch or tea. It's never happened. I don't think it'll ever happen, ever. The time period is specified because, alright, so if you are suspending it for a certain amount of time, the time at which you reconvene is important. So right now we had a break, right? It's exactly like that. Except that I didn't ask you, can we break for tea? I just told you. In the case of the conference, you will be asked. And a time is specified, like just we did 3:50 in case of today. Then it will be something else. Alright. The adjournment of meeting. So as you know, your conference takes place over 2 days, right? You close on one day and then you move on to you come the next day. That's how it is. But you have to stop the proceedings for the day. You do that by adjourning the meeting for the day, right? So yeah, so when the proceedings for the day is complete, so then you have everyone's spoken. It's like around, I think, if I'm not wrong, by 13 in the evening, you're done. You have to just now you just have to go home, but you need to stop temporarily. Temporarily in this case is half a day till you reconvene the next day. The time at which the meeting is reconvened is specified. So okay, the chairperson will say, all right, kindly come back tomorrow at 9 a.m. in the morning, or whatever the time may be. Are there any questions so far regarding adjournment, suspension? Can we have the mics here? Okay. Just a minute, I'll make sure that's all. Lady here. Kindly raise your hand so that our volunteer can find you.
So during the lunch break or the tea time, will the whole meeting will be suspended or adjourned?
Suspended. Suspension is for small interruptions, like lunch or tea. Adjournment is for the day.
And for the last session, it will be adjourned or
I'll get to that now. That's another one called closure. I'll get to that. Yes, sir.
Can you go out for an informal meeting to GSF?
Yes, absolutely. Just don't interrupt the speaker. Only required. I keep emphasizing that for a very good reason. Just don't interrupt the speaker. Simple as that.
When we have to propose a informal is the same process.
You don't have to propose an informal. An informal means you just walk out. So let's say you and your friend, the delegate, if you are saying your ally is delegate of Israel, you want to consult amongst yourselves. You send him or her a check. All right, please let us please meet out for consultations. And then once the speaker is not speaking, you just walk out. You don't have to announce anything. So you don't have to propose a motion for informal. Okay, I'll repeat that for you. So suspension is basically for smaller interruptions like within the day. Suspension is when you want to break for lunch or tea. So I think for all intents and purposes, lunch and tea is the only reason you use the word suspension. Okay? So when you're done for day 1, you'll have to stop the meeting to come the next day, right? That's when you adjourn. So it's a longer adjournment is for a longer interruption. It's simple as that. I don't, as such there is no differences apart from the time. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
If a motion is proposed and a 50-50 vote is taken, then whose favor will it go in?
In the case of an equally divided vote, the motion is considered failed. The same goes even for resolution. Let's say you have exactly 25 yeses, 25 noes, the motion is considered failed because the criteria for majority is 50 plus 1. Any other questions? Yeah.
What if I need a break for tea? You can give how much?
As such, we will be specifying the time in the schedule itself, how long your tea break will be. You'll be sort of breaking for that period of time itself. As of now, I'm not clear at what time that happens and how long it happens. Any other questions? Yeah, gentlemen.
How many delegates can walk out for an informal form?
I'm sorry?
How many delegates can walk out for an informal form?
As long as you maintain the quorum, which is 1/4 of the committee, everyone else can move out. That is exactly what I was referring to when I say quorum and why it gives you that flexibility. Yeah? Any other questions? The gentleman there.
The formal and formal can be only done with the allies or with everybody.
I'm sorry?
The formal and formal we can work out only with the allies or with everybody.
Those relations are up to you. The chairperson or the Pune secretary is not concerned with who you decide to consult with. Even if you are consulting with states that are hostile to you, we consider that not natural because you want them to compromise and you have to talk to them. So then we don't as such impose any restrictions, oh no, you have to walk out only with your allies. We don't determine that. Any other questions? Alright. So this is for temporary suspensions. Then we have the adjournment of debate. Now this is a little bit. Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Are all motions taken into consideration by the chair?
Most are. It is rare for the chairperson to say no to any motion because every motion is considered that there's some substantive element to it.
So, can you just give an example of a scenario where the motion would be considered willingly?
Considered?
Willingly, or not accepted?
Usually most motions are fine, but then if it is beyond the sort of motions that have been specified here, it is usually not considered. So you can't, or maybe due to time differences, maybe some will not be considered. For example, if you have, let's say, tea is in 15 minutes, right? And tea is in 15 minutes and someone suggests a formal form for the next 30 minutes. Right? In such a case, the chairperson will dissuade you. He will ask you that, okay, you know what, we are breaking for tea anyway in 15 minutes. Would you rather not bring this up? So those are scenarios where that would happen. Again, I can't provide you a concrete example other than that for now. I'll get back to that on later if I recall any subsequent times. Any other questions? Alright, so the adjournment of debate. This is also referred to as a no action motion. So let's say you have on day 2 you have sort of discussed a lot of things and even if there's a resolution on the table, there's a draft and there's a resolution on the table. A delegate proposes a motion for an adjournment of debate. This means if it's passed, you will stop discussion, deliberation and work on the draft resolution right there. All stops and you go, no action motion. Of course, this is subject to a vote. It has to pass in the committee for it to be implemented. So then this is the adjournment of debate. Now I understand this is a little vague as I have put it right now. So are there any questions you may have? The gentleman there.
Don't you have to specify the reasons for why you're seeking an adjournment? Which reasons are usually accepted?
So then, the scenario in which an adjournment could happen could be anything. For one, you may decide that the resolution is really harmful. You may, the committee let's say a delegate has come up and said, oh, you know what, the resolution is actually kind of bad. It kind of weakens everybody's interest and it's not a good resolution. We don't have time to make a new one. Or, alternatively, there are two positions and there is no consensus. Let's say half of the committee is in favor of one particular position while the other half is in complete disagreement and there is no common ground. So you know for a fact that no resolution will pass. In such a case you may decide, you know what, whatever we have discussed is on record, let's just not have a resolution at all. That is also when this could come. These are scenarios. Of course so for example, if you look at let's say issue such as death penalty, right? As has always been the case, it's always very contentious. So then it's abolitionist countries on one end and people who want to retain the death penalty. Will they have common ground? No, mostly no. Maybe they could. Maybe they could compromise on some issue and then sort of build a resolution. But often that is rare and then they may decide, you know what, let's just not go further with any work on a resolution or a report, whatever it is. So that could be the scenarios where this could happen. The gentleman here had a question.
If there is a resolution, there are certain number of resolutions that goes to a chair. He will choose some of those to be voted. On what basis will he choose the resolutions? Like number of people who support that resolution, or number of solutions that problems have, or something else?
First come, first serve.
What?
First come, first serve. So the first resolution that reaches the chairperson's table is the one he will consider first.
So that will be voted?
Debated, yeah.
Only one, no others.
Depends on the time period. So then there's a little flexibility there. It will be clarified.
Don't you think you should make all of them after a certain time? There should be a certain time limit within which all of them should come, you should read them and then choose some of those to be voted?
Yes, unfortunately, though, time considerations are also a problem. Like the committee time. If we were to take all the resolutions, first of all, okay, so then here at Pune, we don't have the concept of signatories and all for resolutions. In such a case, throughout the committee session, the chairperson aims for consensus. In the sense that one resolution should come from all, preferably. He works towards it. He sort of engages in the discussions and debates. He tries to find out what's wrong, where you can compromise. So the committee's active mindset is to come to a consensus rather than have many resolutions. Because please remember, resolution is to pass. If you are going to push only your agenda through your resolution, you are going to alienate the rest of the committee. So then those are, how do I put it, like group dynamics and group realities that play out in the committee.
And if such a scenario comes like there are certain groups, if one group makes their resolution as they have certain solutions, they wrote down and just get to the chair first before the time ends. Will that be voted only?
Yes, but if there's a lot of time left, he will try to sort of, okay, let's talk to this block as well. Can we merge this together? The chairperson is a very active participant in that role. So more or less, he is going to try and follow consensus no matter what happens. Any other questions? Yeah.
How do you differentiate between adjournment of meeting and adjournment of debate? Like, does it go hand in hand? Like, once like a motion is passed, the other goes to it.
When we say meeting, we refer to the sessions. So day 1 is a meeting, day 2 is another meeting. Those are meetings. When we say debate, we are considering both days together. So the matter of both days together comes to a close when we're talking about a debate.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah. So so often what happens is that given that it's a no action motion that you have chosen. Yeah. So there's a question. I'm so sorry about that. There's a question here. Yeah.
What is it 2 for against?
Yeah. I'm coming precisely.
Sorry.
So given that you're choosing not to have any action whatsoever on the agenda, it is subject to a 2 for 2 against method. So when a delegate tries to propose a motion for the adjournment of debate, the chairperson will ask for 2 speakers to speak for this adjournment and 2 for against. In that what happens, okay, so then any one country may decide, you know what, I can't have it adjourned right now because you know what, I have not going to speak. I want to pass a resolution. I don't want it done. I don't want it gone. So he may choose for. The 2 against. Oh, I'm sorry. I just completely confused that. Yeah. So the adjournment for 2 for would be when they say, okay, you know what, there's no progress happening. I don't see anything. There's too much contention. No consensus happening. The resolution is weak. We can't go through with this. You speak for the adjournment of debate. And 2 against is the opposite, where you say, no, I have to persist with the discussion. I need to talk more about it. I need more things done under this agenda. And I need action done. So then I want to speak against it. After the 2 for 2 against is put to a vote. Subsequent to which it is decided whether the committee is adjourned debate or it resumes session. Any questions? The lady there. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So just to clarify for all the delegates here, when you're reviewing the resolution, there will be possibilities of amendments, correct?
Can you please repeat your question?
You will be able to propose amendments of the resolution as they go through the resolution, correct?
The lady there had a question.
So do you need 2 for and 2 against to stop the adjournment?
No, it doesn't stop the adjournment. So this is like a last-ditch effort to gauge the mood of the committee, right? So does the committee want to stop it and why? After that there will be a vote and then it's decided whether the adjournment proceeds or not. Any other questions?
Say I want to bring a change in the resolution, so how do we do that?
That is a process called amendments. I will come to that.
Thank you.
Alright, so are there any questions? Oh yeah, maybe.
Who speaks with 2 for and 2 against? I mean, does the chairperson select 2 people or you can just go randomly?
It is on a voluntary basis again. All speeches including mine is on a voluntary basis. The chairperson, so that the chairperson asks for people who would speak for. If there are 2, he recognizes 2. If there are 2 against, he recognizes those 2 and then it happens that.
And one more thing I would like to ask is there any vote for the resolution, like a particular country a delegate proposes a resolution? So is there a vote on that or
Yes ma'am, that is because if the resolution, if it comes to the table, at the end, what ideally should be happening is that there would be a voting on the resolution. It's a roll call, I should get to that. That's like coming to the end of the. And finally, the closure of debate. So, what do we have in closure of debate? Let's say there's a resolution on the table. Okay, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
So how long do what is the time between the 2 for and 2 against?
That may be a standard 2 minutes to each speaker.
So 2 minutes to explain why you want the adjournment of debate or why you don't want the adjournment.
Yeah. Alright. There is one more question. Yes.
What if more than 2 people people are like volunteering for 2 for and 2 against.
In such a case, the chairperson recognizes the tool that he or she wishes. Any other questions? Okay. So the closure of debate is necessary before voting on any draft can take place. Let's say there's a resolution on the table, you have debated it, there's amendments passed, amendments have been incorporated, and it needs to now go to a vote, right? This is the absolute final step. You need to pass a motion to close the debate first. Once this motion passes, then the next thing that happens is the roll call, not the roll call vote, but there's a vote taking place. So when it comes to when it is passed, the chairperson will ask you a very specific question. The question goes as, honorable delegates, do we have consensus on this resolution? Okay? He or she waits. If there are any objections, so for example, if delegate says, no, we have an objection, there is no consensus, then it goes to a vote. Right? It goes to a roll call vote. So then it will be called, okay, Delegate of Afghanistan, Delegate of Albania, alphabetically. And this is where your roll call matters. Right? Your roll call matters because it depends on what you have put your roll call as. So if you're present, you may choose to say yes, you may choose to say no, you may choose to abstain altogether. You just have to say abstain. If you have said present in voting, it's either yes or no, because you are voting. Hence the term present and voting. Right? Are there any questions regarding this so far? Any at all? The gentleman there.
For any objection, do you have to justify it, or can you just say that there is an objection?
Objection during the consensus?
Yeah.
No. You don't have to justify anything. Your views are your views. Your country's views rather. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Alright, so then the point of order. So for those who come from, who are more familiar with other procedures, they are familiar with something known as points, right? So then they have things like point of order, point of personal privilege, parliament required, etc. The only point that is available to us in Pune Man is the point of order. Okay? And we have strictly reduced the gambit under which this can be used. So at any point of time, if there is any procedural error committed by either any other delegate or by a chairperson, you may use the point of order. So let's say I have recognized, I'm a chairperson, I have recognized you in the wrong order, right? So I had in the list it goes like Bangladesh, Sweden, Iran, but I recognize Iran, Sweden, and Bangladesh. So I start off with Iran. That's a point of order. So then how you propose it is very simple. You just raise your placard. Then when you raise your placard, the chairperson is bound to recognize you as to why you are raising the placard, to what point you rise. Then you may say point of order on the chairperson. The order of recognition on this list is wrong. It's actually Bangladesh, Sweden, and then Iran. The chairperson then reviews it. If it's a simple matter, he just says, okay, I apologize, and he just does the correction. However, his ruling, he may rule the other way also. He could say, no, this is not how it's going to be. This is the original order. It is as per how I see it. After that, you have an option available to you in case it is very contentious. Now again, we don't foresee any contention as such, but in case there is some real bad contention, like okay, the chairperson's ruling is really not right, you have a process of appeal. Okay, that you appeal to the chairperson's ruling. So that means that so what you're saying by that is I want you to reconsider what you just decided. Please. After that, in that appeal process, what happens is that the chairperson has to put the matter to a vote. Okay? Let's take this very example, the whole recognition of speakers. Again, I don't ever foresee this going to appeal for the list problem, but nevertheless, just an example. So the chairperson says no, Even if it is Bangladesh, Sweden, Iran, I recognize it as Iran, Sweden, Bangladesh. The delegate appeals, then the matter is put to a vote in the committee. So the matter being who goes first, not whether the chair is wrong or right, but who goes first. That is the question. So it is the delegate versus the chairperson in that sense. So then first they put then the matter is, will it be Iran, Sweden, Bangladesh as per what the chair says? If it's voted no, then the chairperson it's in favor of the delegate. I understand it gets a little confusing, but as I said, the adjudication process usually doesn't happen. But if it happens, remember that this option is available to you, that you can appeal to the decision of the chairperson. Yeah? Any questions? Yeah,
Is the point of order only from delegate to chairperson or is it between delegates as well?
It is applicable to both parties. Any other questions? Gentlemen. Okay, oh yeah, go ahead.
How do you start an appeal process?
Okay, so you raise a point of order. It has been heard by the chairperson. The chairperson gives his ruling. He says, okay, on this matter, the chairperson stands by his own ruling that it's Iran, Sweden, Bangladesh. In that scenario, you can just raise a placard again and say, Honorable Chairperson, we'd like to appeal your decision, and then it starts. The gentleman there had a question.
So point of order is more or less a procedural law.
Yes.
How critical is it to the motion raised? Or can it be raised after the person is spoken?
Okay, I'm not clear with your question. Can you repeat it for me, please?
Is a point of order raised after a person has spoken? Will it be a fatal thing to his motion? Will it be not considered?
Okay, so whether or not a point of order can be raised after after person has spoken. It can be raised at any point of time.
So does it initiate the motion?
Does it?
The speaker has spoken already.
Yeah.
Whatever he has spoken, do we consider it or not?
So if the matter has been considered by the chairperson and he says no whatever the motion or his speech is wrong, the order is wrong, he may strike it off record. Yeah, he can strike it off record, but as such he may try to compromise, asking you all right, since it's been considered, would you rather forgive it? He may try to do that. Last is compromise effort is possible. Yeah, I think the gentleman there had a question.
Can we use it for factual errors?
No. Any factual errors you must incorporate within your own speeches. There is no separate procedure because at the United Nations, anything is the opinion of the delegate and of the country, and therefore there is no challenge as to the facts. If it's something really obvious and the committee knows that it is a general it's an obvious fact, there is no dispute about it, but this person is disputing it, the chairperson may tell you that, okay, for the record, the United Nations maintains that this is the actual fact. But no correction will be made because everything is a belief of the delegate. Any other questions? Yeah.
In the case that we brought here, the delegate has said that you can't interrupt them in the middle of speech. In other animals, we do use point of order. What do I do with this?
Just raise your placard. Even if the chairperson will see, we will sort of recognize that the speaker is inaudible and the corrections will be.
You don't have to say a point of anything, just raise your placard.
Just raise your placards because in the view of the chairperson, this is unusual for a person to raise a placard while a person is speaking. So he would recognize it's a matter of importance, and obviously if the delegate is not loud, the chairperson also sort of feels it and they will make the corrections. It's something he derives from context. Alright, any other questions? Okay, so yeah, what I have forgotten to tell you is that it's extended to matters such as relevance. What do I mean by that? Let's say a delegate makes a speech which is completely, there has nothing to do with the agenda, absolutely nothing. A point of order may be used. The relevance will be decided upon by the chairperson. He retains that right as to how you find it relevant, how you find it irrelevant. He makes the decision. Of course, that's subject to appeal, but nevertheless, it can be extended to matters of relevance. Right? In fact, just yesterday I was reading about this one scenario where, so the delegate of in the real UN, the delegate of Canada was constantly referring to the to DPRK as North Korea. So DPRK raised a point of order, asking them to use the correct name. So you see what it can be used as a corrective measure. Point of order is a corrective measure. It is wide as such, but it can extend to matters such as relevance as well. Alright? Okay. The right of reply. So the right of reply is basically this, the time of the day where after the day session is over. That is when the chairperson may sort of accept right of replies. That do you have over the meetings of today, do you have anything that you want to reply to another delegate? Do you want to rebut somebody? Do you want to give a rejoinder? Is there some argument you would like to bring about? You may use this. It is basically the general speakers list except that it's specific. It's specified for you to use it to reply. 1, 2. You get only one chance. That's the catch. You get only 2 minutes to make all your objections known to delegate. Okay, so then if I must pick this up, okay, delegate of Tajikistan said this, I would like to reply to that in this manner. Delegate of Egypt said this, I'd like to reply to that in this manner. It goes like that. You get 2 minutes. You have to make all your objections known. Yeah, so the rules regarding right of reply, that is the basic rule. And yeah, so then you can't have a right of reply to a right of reply. So then after you make a right of reply, another delegate counter-argues your argument. You can't say, I want to go back in. That's not how it works. You get one chance and that's how it is. Yeah? Any questions regarding the right of reply? Yes, ma'am.
It's only one right of reply, or we can get it anytime.
It is designated for the last 15 or half an hour of the day. So then after the closure of the meeting, right, adjournment of the meeting, the list is open. The list for the right of reply is open.
Okay, so we have to just make it like a note so that we can reply that person, not at the time when there may be misconception regarding the...
You may reply to any such matters. You've been offended, you can bring that up.
So just for example,
Okay.
it's not the right to say a small country or a big country, okay?
Yeah.
So I have a right to reply in that manner. So when any delegate from any country say that this poor country or this small country, so at that point in time I can have the right to reply or at the end of the day.
Ma'am, in such a case, I would really recommend that you use a point of order instead of a right of reply, because this is not as such to be used for an apology. This is being given to you for all, it's a very wide sort of gamut. You know what I'm saying? You can use to reply even for substantive arguments.
So it's only at the end.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
While replying, do you not refer to yourself as a third person?
You refer to yourself as the third person even. It's like general speakers list rules except that and it is a time. Any other questions? Yeah.
Instead of right of reply, you would also include it in your speeches.
Absolutely. We encourage that you use a lot of it in your speeches rather than resort to the right of reply.
If a delegate has insulted you or your country, then can you ask for an apology?
Okay, so when it's a clear insult to either, of course, there is no ad hominem attacks, you can't be attacked as a person or as a country. If it's deliberately intentional and it's insulting, the chairperson, without you asking itself, will already prompt initiative, will already start sort of asking the delegate to sort of retract the statement or apologize already. However, if he doesn't do that, you may raise a point of order at best, because so remember, honorable delegates, please remember that this is a very important point, that since we emphasize the value of respect in our committees, you're bound by a principle of one for all and all for one, right? If any delegate is getting insulted like that, it is your responsibility to take it up with the chairperson and make sure that that has been rectified. You are to stand up for all delegates if it's being in a disrespectful fashion. If it's a normal disagreement in course of debate, it's fine. That's not what this is about. This is about genuine respect for each other as delegates. So remember, you're bound by that principle. Alright? Have I answered your question, sir? Alright, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Doesn't this procedure include challenges or any sort of one-on-one debates?
No, ma'am. We'll take this one last question and then I shall move through the slides. Please note down any questions you may have and then we can address it at the end because I feel like we have a paucity of time. So I'd like to apologize for that, but I hope this will be accepted. Yes, sir.
How do I gesture a right of reply?
How do you?
Gesture, like for point of order I raise my platform.
Right. You don't have to. It's the same rules that are applicable for you as the judge speakers list. Yeah. So then the chairperson will ask you, are there any states wishing to exercise the right of reply? That is when you say that yes, I am the delegate. So criteria for evaluation. A lot of people. So okay, just for the record, as a Secretary General and on a personal level, what I believe is that this should not have any sort of awards or because diplomacy never has awards. It's just how you put your interest forward. That's it. There's no awards. No diplomat gets a prize saying, "Look, you're a very good delegate." No, that's his job, right? However, in the case of NUN, the reason we have things like awards is to incentivize your representation and the skills that you will improve. That you will improve your skills in order to do so. So, as such, these are the broad criteria for the evaluation. Please note that we don't keep points individually. We just judge on the basis of a cumulative score. So then it matters that you perform in all areas, right? As I said, it is important for you to have a mix of all. It can't be that all right, I'm very good at drafting, I'm very good at oratory. Oh yeah, so then another note on oratory is something I'd like to repeat what I said in the last session, which is that your oratory skills is not being judged. It's the last priority on anybody's mind. A chairperson is obliged to listen to you. You read from a script, you read from paper, it doesn't matter. That is allowed. If you're not comfortable with public speaking, you can read it out from a page. That's all right. Your public speaking skills is not adjudicated here, but your other skills are. Please make sure that you have a good balance between all. You can't compensate as such. There is no, you can't be like, okay, fine, I will do good research, but I can sort of compromise on foreign policy. That's not how it works, right? So, again, the slides will be uploaded to you on the website very soon, so you can take a look at that later. Right, so then we have come almost to an end for this presentation today. If you have any procedural queries or for that matter any other queries, please contact me at my email. This is my email address, ashwinkumar.pmu@gmail.com. So, as I said, you may contact us at any time. Please don't feel shy to ask us anything you want because we believe that you need to be clear with everything. And the procedure is not something that should hold you back from anything. We are firm believers in that, right? Are there any questions that you may want to ask for the whole presentation? Any at all? Yes, ma'am. Just a minute.
What about the amendment for the resolution?
Right. Okay, so the resolution writing process as such has not been explained to this gathering today. Your chairperson will be doing a full a resolution brief because some committees have resolutions while some commissions and councils have reports. So as such, time doesn't permit me to explain both because both have a different sort of an approach. The whole process will be explained to you in detail by your chairperson. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Can we add a name to the general speakers list anytime else, except for the time when the secretary, the chairman, declares the general list open?
You may send in a chit. I'm not very clear as to your question.
Like when the chairman declares the
So the FAQs, the answer is yes, you can send a chit. That is one. But then he or she keeps asking for speakers constantly. That is one place where you can give your name, you can send by chit in any other time. That's available. Any other questions?
If there's a part of the resolution which strongly affects my country, but my allies are not willing to take that up the resolution. So should I speak in favor for my country or for my allies?
Statecraft and diplomacy means you will put your national interests above everyone else. Right? As Lord Palmerston says, there are no permanent allies, no permanent enemies, only permanent national interests. Same applies to you. Yes, sir.
So the system of moderated and unmoderated caucuses is not there?
It's not present. Yes, sir.
Alright, then.
Any other questions?
How many times will the chair of the chairperson?
The list is considered open as long as the day progresses. It's only closed at the end of the day. Right?
And will there be another second year?
This is another general speaker. This is for the second. Any other questions? Yeah.
You said that we refer to the chairperson as honorable chairperson.
Yeah.
But what if we want to refer to him as the delegate of some country? Do we still refer to him as
So the chairperson. You may do so. Because
we refer to him as
the problem.
delegate of some country or
So when that, please keep in mind the context in which that is being used. So if you are referring to the chairperson as a delegate, mostly that will be in a scenario where it's a formal, right? That's when you can say honorable delegate of whatever country he or she says he is. Because he's wearing multiple hats like that. He's a chairperson also, he's a delegate also. So how you address him is fine. That just keep in mind the context in which that happens. Yes.
You have point of parliament inquiry.
No, not as such. So you can send, if you have questions on procedure, please feel free to send a chit to your secretary or approach the secretary when there's no speaker speaking.
Send it to if you have
Any procedural queries? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You said it comes to amendment of the resolution.
Yeah. So, okay, you want me to discuss on the amendment process? As I said, that will be discussed in detail by the chairperson on the day of the conference. Any other questions? Yeah.
What if like I've gone for an informal office but it's my chance to speak according to the speaker's list, will I be notified or?
No, ma'am. As such, you will have to follow that spot. But you may choose to, you can add your name again to general speakers list whenever it's been asked. So then that works. Any other question? Yeah.
I asked a question and I get an answer. Can I ask the right follow up after that?
There is no need to follow up. So then if you want to follow up, you can informally, you can ask within your speech. Or send it. That's up to you. Yes.
For a resolution pass, how the voting happens?
I'm sorry?
For a resolution pass, how the voting happens?
So, as I said, you are asked if there's a consensus, that is, does everyone agree on this resolution? If the answer is no, then the resolution, you will be called by your country, delegate of Afghanistan, delegate of Albania. That's when you say yes, no, or whatever in the case, depending on your roll call. Any other questions? Have I answered your question adequately though? Okay, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is not regarding the code of conduct.
Okay.
Actually, I got Denmark. I'm an origin of Denmark. So when I checked on the Google Maps, Denmark is a part is in Greenland and half is in the European country. So does it matter?
Okay, to clarify, that's not the situation of Denmark. Greenland as it is a territory that is operated, like not operated, but governed by Denmark. Greenland has its own regional government, but it reports to Denmark. It's like how we have state governments and union government here. Greenland has sort of a state government, so to speak. So that doesn't matter as such. It doesn't affect your foreign policy in a lot of ways.
So now do I consider the Greenland government or the...
No, you consider, yeah, you are representing both.
So I consider both?
Yeah. They are looking to you to represent them in foreign policy. So you are representing both. Right? Any other questions?
How do you vote, guys?
it all depends on your foreign policy. Okay, so if your foreign policy dictates that you will mingle with more a certain group of countries, so let's say you're India, and there's a discussion on things like, so if you're India and you're discussing climate change, so you will ally with countries like South Africa, with Brazil, that's how you find common cause depending on your agenda and your foreign policy. And that's how you identify your allies. Any other questions? Yeah.
Suppose a delegate makes a mistake in his speech, and that mistake is somewhat a big insult for our country.
Yeah.
So we use the point of order.
Yes.
But the chairperson didn't consider it so much important.
Okay.
But
Then you can subject it to an appeal, or you can accept the ruling of the chairperson. So you can say that, okay, please reconsider your ruling, and then it will be voted on. So half of the committee has to agree that yes, the matter at hand requires the delegate be vindicated. Any other questions?
If I have disputed territory and I don't know if I'm supposed to refer to the trust or what.
I'm very sorry, ma'am. Can you just speak a little?
If I have a disputed territory,
Yeah.
then if we are filing treaty regarding the fact that that area is mine or not,
Yeah.
do I still refer to the trust of the people over there?
Do you
Still
represent the people there?
the trust of the people of that area?
Yes. You have, because if your country is so when it comes to a dispute, it is generally understood that two countries are claiming ownership over one piece of land. They claim to represent those people. So when let's take the case of Kashmir. Both India and Pakistan claim that Kashmiris belong to us, that they are our people. So when we go to the UN, we assume that we are carrying out the foreign policies of the Kashmiri people as well. Both parties. So both are similar in fashion. Any other questions?
What if the chair asks someone to give an apology to a delegate and the delegate did not do so?
Well, it depends on the circumstance. Actually, I cannot provide an answer to you because it's a situational context. So it depends from situation to situation. If it is mostly the delegate would, the chairperson would ask to apologize only if it's a really grave sort of problem, right? If it's that grave, then he was subject to be removed from government. That is the final arbitrator on that is the Secretary General. But you are liable to be removed. You are not removed immediately, you are liable to be removed. Any other questions?
So what would happen if what if we interrupt when a delegate is
Absolutely nothing. Except maybe if the delegate is not audible and a delegate has raised a placard, the chairperson also feels that, the delegate is not very loud. He may interrupt the speaker then and say, honorable delegate, I'm very sorry, but can you please be a little loud? That's the only possible time when an interruption happens. Yeah? Any others? Yeah.
can we withdraw a name of the president?
Yeah. You can choose to strike your name off the list.
How do we do so?
Just so then you may just raise a placard and state your matter. Any other delegates? All right. Yeah.
What if delegate says walk out for an informal during some delegate speaking with any action against them?
You will get a reprimand from a chairperson requesting you rather to observe respect as such. Any other questions? The gentleman there has a question. Sir, can you just raise your hand, please? Yeah.
What's the agenda for spec poll?
The agenda of spec poll is the review of special political missions. Any others? Alright. Again, if you have any queries at any point of time, feel free to send an email to the Secretary General and we will resolve your questions as soon as possible. Alright. Thank you very much.